259 people on board and 11 people on the ground were dead. No suspect has been tried for those murders. The question, why not, is the one most despairingly asked today. But that wasn't the first question facing investigators a decade ago.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, I got this phone call. The instruction was to go to the scene at Lockerbie and use my experience and knowledge to try and decide whether this crash was accidental or whether in actual fact it was a result of a criminal act. The debris and carnage caused by this accident stretched for 800 square miles, and in fact 2 separate trails of debris were determined during the investigation. These trails had a gap of between 2 and 3 miles between them. This is Thundergarth Church and Graveyard, and it's opposite the church in the field over the wall that the great nose cone of the Jumbo 747 landed on the Wednesday night. On the Thursday, I came up with my team. The nose cone was there, rescuers were there, the media were there, and I took time to enter the nose cone, which was quite vast, and sad to record, many of the crew were still in their places within the nose cone.
In Lockerbie, speculation was at fever pitch. How could a jumbo jet just fall out of the sky? Was it accidental or deliberate? The 747 was old, one of the first to be built. It had flown 72,000 hours and completed over 16,000 flights. The fear that a structural failure of the world's largest airliner was responsible for the carnage in Lockerbie played on the minds of detectives and air investigators arriving in the traumatized town.
The scene that greeted me on arrival at Lockerbie was the most harrowing scene I have ever witnessed. We were told first and foremost that we were to search for bodies, and we were to do it in a thorough and dignified manner. Secondly, we were then to search for personal belongings, and thirdly, we were to search for pieces of aircraft.
Distressing as it was, the search for clues began with the bodies of the dead. The bodies were taken to a temporary mortuary in the town, where a team of pathologists waited to examine them.
It is essential that you investigate the bodies, you look at the bodies thoroughly to pick up clues, perhaps even trace evidence of what actually happened, and from that, helping to reconstruct what actually took place. For example, if somebody was in direct contact with the bomb or very close to it, there might have been primary missile injuries. Bits of the bomb, actually bits of the bomb, bits of the circuitry perhaps, would have been embedded in people who were sitting in the seats above the bomb or sitting close to the bomb.
But the examination of the bodies gave up no clues, and the frantic search for evidence now turned to the aircraft debris. This is the home territory of air investigators worldwide, and within 24 hours of the destruction of Pan Am 103, British air investigators had been joined by their American counterparts. Among them was the Mr. Bomb of air investigation, Walter Korsgaard, from the Federal Aviation Administration.
The first day he arrived, he was dressed in yellow oilskins. Day 1, day 2, day 3, Walter always arrived on scene with the yellow oilskins on. As a result of that, he was affectionately called the Banana Man.
During a lifetime of searching for and testing out explosives, the Banana Man has blown up more aircraft than terrorists, blown himself up, and been deafened in both ears. The moment he set foot in Lockerbie, he wanted to brief the search crews on the telltale signs of bomb damage. But this was a sensitive suggestion to the investigation manager he approached.
politically, he didn't think it was a smart idea to start talking about bombs too early, because if it occurs and the UK government is responsible for the screening, this could be a problem. So he said, well, I'd rather not do that just now. And of course, as soon as the meeting was over, all the supervisors that were going to run these search lines got me off to one side and said, hey, what are we really looking for? And I said, well, you know, you come down to the room and we'll go over it. So we ran a little private seminar.
Korsgaard showed the search chiefs his little traveling collection, bits of bombed aircraft he's investigated over the years. They all showed the telltale signs of sooting and the distinctive jagged edges, unlike any mechanical tear.
We wanted them to look for pieces of metal with those characteristics, plus gas washing craters, which is little craters in the metal that look like a typical bomb crater, actually, but they're very tiny. But you can see them with your naked eye, usually.
Mr. Korsgaard was to be a godsend, because with his knowledge of damage to aircraft, etc., I decided that when I was out in my scientific team, he should be a member of that. And the two of us set up a great rapport as we set about trying to establish what had caused the aircraft to crash.
And so together, the Scottish forensic investigator and America's Mr. Bomb started in on the 800 square miles of crash site. That search would become one of the most thorough in the history of aircraft investigation. It was also one of the luckiest.
On about the third day after we arrived at the incident, one of the individuals on one of the search lines brought in a piece of fuselage skin, which was precisely what we were looking for. It was a piece of skin, perhaps 20 inches long, maybe 8 inches high, and it was bent toward the front of the airplane and had stayed there rather than bending back. If it were a mechanical breakdown of the airplane, pieces will splay out just like in an explosion, but they fold back in. In this case, with a bomb, it won't happen that way. When you think about it, the airplane is flying at 33,000 feet. It's probably 30 below zero or colder, and yet here it is hit by a bomb and the ball, the fireball, at about 5,000 to 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it swings out into that cold air and it freezes there, you might say.
And just as with Korsgaard's collection, that vital piece of Pan Am 103 had the sooting, the jagged edge, and the gas washing craters, the telltale signs of explosion.
At this point, on day 3, Walter Korsgaard and myself knew without any shadow of doubt that we were now dealing with a criminal act rather than an accidental crash.
We took that piece of metal directly to the individual in charge of the overall management of the incident and explained to him that if he had it tested by a lab, he would surely find that it was in fact evidence that there had been a bomb on Pan Am 103.
Some pieces of wreckage are today being taken to the Royal Armament Research and Development Establishment at Fort Halstead in Kent for more detailed examination to determine whether they exhibit evidence of a pre-impact explosion.
And they flew it down to the lab, and 9 o'clock that night we got the word back that there were explosive residues and they were gas washing craters that we were looking at, and the jagged edge was positive proof.
The destruction of Pan Am 103 was immediate, the devastation total. But contrary to popular belief, Pan Am 103 was statistically unlucky.
Yeah, most people think that any size bomb in an aircraft will probably bring it down. Actually, if you look at the record, 3/4 of turbine-powered aircraft, that is pure jet airplane, survive bombs, and that's historic.
So how was it that Pan Am 103 was blasted into 1 million pieces? To find out, the investigators decided to blow up some aircraft. It turned out that where the Lockerbie bomb had been planted was critical. The tests revealed that the forward cargo hold, where the Lockerbie bomb went off, is a particularly sensitive area in wide-bodied jets.
The way the 747 is designed, I believe, makes that airplane most vulnerable to a bomb in the cargo hold. For example, there's tremendous space between the outside walls of the cargo hold and the cargo containers themselves. And these spaces allow gases to travel and do damage in places where in another airplane they couldn't do that type of a job. This bomb was not placed in that airplane specifically in a given slot. It was randomly put in the airplane. It probably ended up in the worst possible place in the baggage hold.
The consequences of the loss of Flight 103 were huge. Pan Am went out of business, while the US government, under pressure from the families of the Lockerbie dead, spent millions building this security research laboratory. It's dedicated to preventing another Lockerbie.
Back in '89, the year following Pan Am 103 incident, I was involved in actual research testing that was done with the UK, the Scottish, the FBI, and the FAA here in the States to demonstrate the type of damage that was done in the Pan Am 103.
As a result of those tests, the FAA was set a number of targets. One was to develop equipment that could actually identify Lockerbie-sized quantities of explosives hidden in passengers' luggage. By borrowing from technology first used in hospital body scanners, researchers developed a new type of airport machine. It scans and maps a bag's contents, analyzes them, identifies any explosive and any object it's hidden in.
The system here, the CTX 5000, is designed to actually look for the bomb quantity explosive before it gets on the aircraft. We have done extensive testing, both with suitcases without explosive and suitcases with explosives, all military and commercial explosive. This bag has a two-speaker cassette radio. You'll notice that the two speaker magnets are on the lower part of the picture. The red object is the explosive, which is concealed inside the radio cassette player. It has determined that it's a military type explosive. The mass is approximately 900 grams and the density is 1.4 grams per cubic centimeter.
Clever the new machine may be, but it has been bought by just a handful of airports, and most of those American. Another consequence of Lockerbie was the development of a luggage container that, should a bomb get on board, will resist the kind of blast that downed Pan Am 103.